Hello everyone, this is Damien from DSLRnerd.com. This evening I'm going to talk about what I give as advice for someone trying to get into DSLR photography on the cheap. So you're ready to move up from a point and shoot to a DSLR. If you're truly on a very tight budget and want an entry-level DSLR, I can still recommend the Canon Xsi. It's 12.1 megapixels. It has a 3-inch screen on the back, same size as most other Canons except for the new 5D Mark III. How much money are we talking about? We are talking about $175 to $200 for the body on eBay right now, which is a good price for a 12.1 megapixel DSLR and that is compatible with all the Canon lenses. I recommend going to Craigslist or even Amazon. This lens is a EFS 18 to 200 millimeter, f-stop 3.5 to 5.6. All of the EFS lenses have a white dot to line up with the camera, whereas the EF lenses have a red dot. Used, this lens goes for more than this camera. So while this is a very nice lens to have, it's got a nice range of 18 to 200 millimeter. With a lock, it is probably going to run 600 new, 250 to 300 used. So as I said, the camera's about 175 to 200. So you're looking at about maybe $450 to $500 for this combination. It does have a live view for shooting stills, but this does not shoot video, this camera. The first Canon DSLR that shoots video is the T2i. Therefore, the T2i is pretty much the upgrade for this camera. It would be 18 megapixels and shoots video. The T2i probably $350 for the body. If you're really on a budget and you just spent $175 to $200 on the XSI and you're really already out of money, you had about $250 to spend total. My recommendation is to go on eBay and get a FD lens. The lens here is a 24 millimeter 2.8 f with macro that is probably about $30 or $40 on eBay. This one's made by Sigma, but it fits the Canon mount, and Canon also makes a 24-2.8, but I got a 28 Canon that I gave to someone, and this 24, and I have this 24. I have several other FD lenses. I will do a video on really inexpensive glass on eBay. It fits the old film cameras. So all you have to do is get an adapter for this, which is another 30 bucks or so, and you can pop it onto your DSLR. I'll do a review of this at some point. $30 to $40 for this lens plus $25 for an adapter is a pretty cheap investment into what was really expensive quality, very well made. So these are tanks, these lenses. They're really well constructed. Do yourself a favor about the time you pick up your XSI. You can get one of these for about $25. This is a non-Canon brand battery grip. And what a battery grip does, it gives you batteries and a grip. This is a Meike, M-E-I-K-E. It's really solidly built. It allows extra buttons here to operate your DSLR. Let me show you how it works real quick. You pop off your battery. Hold the little door at an angle and pull out. There's a little plastic switch right here to pop your battery out. For the price, this grip comes with 2 cartridges. One to hold 2 Canon batteries and another to put double A's in case you're out in the desert shooting and you have no plug. This pops into here, this turns and locks. Next, you take your little battery door from your camera and you basically just tuck it down into the base of the grip. The whole thing goes up into your camera, and then you tighten the screw on the back. Once you turn your camera on, then you can hold it from the side like this. It adds a really nice bit of grip to the camera. Plus you've got the wide and tight buttons and the shutter release up here. The same controls you have here with your thumb and your index finger then you have on the front and back of this grip. It has a little on and off switch. So now it feels like you have a pro camera in your hands. It makes it look a little more expensive when really your investment was 25 bucks. Yeah, it adds weight to the camera, but you're carrying 2 batteries now. And I just feel like this is a better little grippier. You know what I mean? There's no other way to describe it than it's really comfortable shooting a lot of portrait like this all day. So as I said, 175 for this body, 25 for the grip. This lens here is gonna, the 18-200 is gonna be probably 250 to 350 used. And as I said, the alternative, you can always get for 50 bucks, you can have a lens and an adapter from the film era that takes just as good pictures. And this lens will be great when you upgrade to a T2i or a T3i, because at 2.8 and manual focus, this makes it a fantastic video lens. Alright, so let's have a look at the operation of the Canon Xsi. On the front here, you have a lens release button. Up here you have a button to raise the flash up. Over here you have a button that shows you the depth of field in the on screen. If this is your first DSLR, read the manual on how to put your strap on. It's very important to put the strap in correctly, because it's there to keep your camera from falling. Do you hear that, Kai? Alright, let's talk about the Xsi's menu. You have the menu button here, which takes you to one of many banks of menus on your Xsi. You've got different picture taking settings, playback settings, and then different settings for your camera throughout these wrenches here. Basically, to go through everything on the back of the Xsi, you've got your viewfinder, you've got these light sensitive things, which actually, it's got an accelerometer in it, so that and a light sensor, so as you pull this up to your face, the screen's supposed to shut off. You've got menu, you've got display, which changes what is viewed on the back of the display here. You get the ability to set the shutter speed there if you hold that down. Your ISO button is on the top here to set your ISO. The Xsi goes up to 1600, or you can leave it on auto for the camera to decide. You've got something here to set the white balance, and also for printing if you've got it set up by a cable. Different kinds of white balance. I usually leave it on auto white balance, but you can adjust it for daylight, shade, cloudy, tungsten, white fluorescent, flash, or you can customize it. This button on the left of your joystick here, the button on the left is to do single shooting or continuous shooting for a high speed. Then you've got different self timers. Continuous 2-second and remote control. The bottom of the joypad sets picture styles, whether you want to set it to neutral, faithful, monochrome, user defined, 1, 2, and 3. And then you've got on the right, you can change it from one-shot autofocus to AI focus to AI servo. I might get into what those do, just leave it on one shot for now. You've got your playback button. Once you're playing, then you can come over here and hit a delete button that you either cancel or erase. To select, you hit the set button in the center. When you're in this mode here where it's got your settings on the back, you can hit the set button to go into the view mode, and you can take a picture like this. The shutter doesn't operate as quick when you're in this view mode. So I know you're used to just standing around like this with your point and shoot, but you'll find that if, listen to the speed of this picture versus the speed of this one. Do you see how that was a lot faster? That's because it just gathers the light and takes the picture better than when it has to show up on the screen here. That's an internal mechanical thing having to do with the mirror flipping up and staying up, or the mirror just doing a quick flip to expose. Okay, so your buttons on the back here, basically if you're in play mode and you're looking at a picture, you can hit the little wide and tight to zoom in. Once you're zoomed in, then you can move around the picture as indicated by this white square here. On top you've got the on-off switch and your different settings. This comes with several settings. The first one you're probably used to using is the green square of safety. The happy green square. And so hopefully by the end of this video you'll want to avoid the green square. Be brave, step away from the green square. Actually, the green square is fully automatic, it's nice and inviting. Ooh, green. It's where pretty much everybody starts with. It puts the camera in fully automatic mode. You go to take a picture, chances are the flash is going to pop up. So expect that to happen. You've got different modes to make it easier on you. You've got a portrait mode and a landscape mode and a macro mode and a fast action mode and a night shot mode and a no flash mode. Then P, TV, AVM, ADEP. What the hell does that mean? I'll back up and explain. Let's start out here for a second, and I'll go into all the rest of them. This is fully automatic. This is having the camera decide what to take the picture of. Chances are the flash is going to pop up. There's a good chance then you'll take a picture of your friends and it'll be way too overexposed. So this is why I say this is the devil mode, the green square, because you can't change anything at all in here. It's totally up to the camera about how it wants to shoot. So if your picture is blown out, that's too bad. You're just putting up with it. So put that back down, come off the green button of safety and go on P. I'm telling you, P is where you really want to start out with this camera, not on the green square. P decides, I want to put up the flash, I don't want to put up the flash. I can take a picture, or I can take a picture with flash. So the good thing about that is when the flash is up and you hit the menu button this time, you have more options in the menu. Suddenly more things have been opened up to you for customization. One of them is flash exposure control, and you can find it on the second one in. So you start out with the first one, hit the second one in, go to flash exposure, hit the set button, and then you can dial that flash down a little bit and take less of a flashy picture. So if you're with your girlfriends in a bar or something and they're getting really blown out, just hit menu and then come to the second thing and then go to flash exposure, hit set, and dial that down and then hit set again. The next mode explained is TV. That actually means shutter priority. Think of TV as you want to control the shutter speed and you want to let the camera do everything else. So this means this is perfect for slowing down the shutter when you want to take a picture of water moving, like a waterfall or a fountain. You want to control the shutter, you want to slow it down so that you get that nice creamy look to the water flowing. The next button is AV, that means aperture priority. You're actually going to control the f-stop, the openness of the aperture, either tight or wide open they call it, so that wide open will let more light in. Wide open is measured by the lower numbers. This is a f3.5 to 5.6 lens. Wide open for this lens is f3.5. And finally we have manual mode. I would not attempt manual mode until you've read the manual. That's pretty much what manual mode means. It means read the manual. This is fully manual. You have control of the photography triad, the shutter speed, the aperture or f-stop, and the ISO. But don't panic because ISO is right there. Bink. Auto for me, thank you. Shutter speed's controlled by this little dial on the front. As you can see, we're at 115, 120, 125. So this is fractions of seconds, so 1/4 second down to 3 seconds. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi. Anyway, read the manual. In manual mode, the dial changes the shutter speed on the left, but if you want to change the f-stop or the aperture, you hold down this little AV button and it gets highlighted. The f-stop gets highlighted and then you use the little jog wheel on the front to change your aperture. So we're at f5 now and I can go out to 6.3 or 8 or 9 or 10 or 12. If you're at 16 or something like that, it's probably good for landscape photography where it takes a nice long exposure on a tripod, drinks in everything. So f16 would be everything in focus, whereas f3.5 you have a little more depth of field, a little shallower depth of field. And then ADEP I believe is a custom setting. So start with P, don't start with green, start with P. At least you can adjust some things in here. You can hit this AV and change kind of the overall output of the exposure up and down. So I'm holding this button here and I'm using the little jog wheel on the front and I'm changing going to take a dark picture, or I can press this button, dial this up and take a light picture. So changing these dials will change the way what menus you get to see back here. So if I'm in the green safety mode, my menu is limited, but if I go into P and hit menu, I've got more of a selection. And if I'm fully manual, I have the full menu. So let's go through the full menu here. Start with the first camera setting. This is quality. So we're going to hit set and we have a choice of quality of picture. L's and M and S's is the quality of the JPEG generated, and there's something over here called RAW and RAW plus JPEG. If you want to shoot in JPEG only, you're going to click one of these. It tells you at the top how many megapixels you're shooting, what the end size is going to be in pixels, and how many pictures you can take of that size on this card. 32 gigabyte cards are cheap, so at the best resolution of JPEG, I still have 999 pictures, which means it's probably a few thousand. It doesn't count any higher than 999. So why would you ever, with a 32 gig at that much, the ability to take that many pictures, why would you ever shoot on medium or small? Well, maybe you're just shooting for a website and you only want 3.4 megabyte 2256 by 1504 pixels. That's pretty big for the web. And it still says 999, but at this point it's probably like 10,000 or 15,000. It's probably crazy high. Now, if you're shooting photography that you want to blow it up later, but I want to recommend something more than JPEG. I want to talk about RAW plus JPEG. JPEG is the version of the photograph that the camera has processed with its settings and delivered as a JPEG. So if I have the white balance up and color correction and blah, 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 blah in the camera, it will be reflected and processed into the JPEG here. But RAW, as you may have known from your vegetables, means that it's a pure and unaltered picture. It's completely right out of the camera, highest resolution possible, and unaltered by the camera. So why I like to shoot in RAW plus JPEG, I still have a decent 328 pictures left on a 32 gig card. I know that seems like a lot, but at $20 or $25 for a 32 gig card, get a couple of them. The reason why this is great, if you're shooting something professionally, you have the raw picture, which is great to pull into Photoshop and great to add some contrast and some brightness and some color to. So if you know that you want the unaltered version and you want the best quality image, final image for printing that, or the web even, that you could possibly want to get, you want to shoot in RAW. So you could shoot all in RAW, but then you have to change it to JPEG to put up to Facebook or whatever. So that's why RAW plus JPEG gives you the least amount of pictures, but it ends up being the most amount of quality. Through all the other menus things, red eye reduction on and off, that should not need explanation. Beep on and off, whether you want your camera to beep. Shoot without card, you should put this to off. Do not shoot pictures and then find out you don't have a SD card in there. That's bad. Review time, however long time you want to actually see your pictures. AEB is basically auto exposure bracket. If you hit that button and you go to the right a little bit, it will shoot a picture that is unexposed, overexposed, and perfectly exposed. You have to hit the single shooting and change it to continuous shooting. What HDR does is give you a underexposed, regular exposed, and overexposed picture that you can then take into Photoshop and combine the three. Alright, so that's what AEB does. Flash exposure compensation I went over earlier. You can set that and lower or raise the output of your flash. Custom white balance, you can go in and select an old picture and basically change the white balance based on how the picture is turning out. White balance is all about controlling the brightness or the exposure of the picture. Color space, I would choose Adobe RGB, especially if you're using Adobe Creative Suite to work on your pictures. Picture style, you've got these different modes already set in here, of whether standard, portrait, landscape, neutral, faithful, monochrome. User defined, you can set your camera on the picture style. Dust delete data is what you use if you happen to get some dead pixels on your camera and you want to fool the camera into thinking there aren't dead pixels. This is playback mode. You've got protect images, that's pretty obvious. Rotate images, erase images, print order, transfer order, histogram. You can go in and see the histogram or brightness of your pictures, and you can change it to either brightness or RGB output. Autoplay if you want to watch a little slideshow on the back of your camera at 3-inch screen. How boring is that? These are camera settings. You've got auto power off. You can set to a bunch of different times. File numbering is either continuous or you can reset it. Auto rotate, whether you want the picture to flip after you take a picture. Format is what you use to format a card. Low-level format is what you use to really format a card. If you've got an older card that you've formatted a few times and you're having some problems with it, you could try to do a low-level format. But know that doing a low-level format will decrease the life of your SD card. So use it sparingly. LCD auto off. It's pretty obvious screen color. You can change some color settings on the screen. You can choose between 4 different settings of color on the screen, la-di-da. LCD brightness, you can turn it up and down. You can set date, time, you can set language. Video system is going to be NTSC for you unless you are across the pond and you're a pal. Center cleaning is what the camera does when it turns itself off. If you feel like you need to do it again at some point, go for it. This is again if you see any kind of smuts in your picture. If you see any kind of smuts on your image. It'll make the sensor shake any dust off itself. Live view function settings, we have it to enable. We have the grid display turned off. The metering timer set to 16 seconds. So if I wanted to turn the grid display on and I was hitting the set button to pull up the live view, then I would get some nice little lines here to help me frame things up. Flash control lets you go in and change things about your flash. You want it to fire? Yes, I do. Built-in flash function settings. I can go bring the exposure down. First curtain stuff is complicated things. Custom functions. Here you can go in and add your own functions. You can check your firmware. There's a way to update the firmware on these cameras. I probably need to do it for this one. 104 is probably not the latest firmware. Updating the firmware involves just downloading the firmware and putting it on an SD card and then popping it in the camera, and it'll ask you if you want to update the firmware, and you say yes, but don't let the camera die or turn it off or anything because you're screwed. Alright, finally there's a My Menu setting. You can set up your menus the way you want them. Yay. So that's the menu on the back of the Canon Xsi or 450D, I believe. You're just going to have to, here's the SD card inside your camera. Flipping that will turn it off. You just punch that, pull that out. There's your SD card. Pop that in, close that. There you go. As I said, buy a battery grip. They're $25. They look cool. Make you feel pro. Use this front button here to take a picture. Let me explain a couple of things back here. This is metering mode. Metering mode lets you kind of evaluate the light meter around a large area or kind of around a large area, and this one does the metering in a dead center spot in the center of the frame. The last one is center weighted average. Here, as I said, you set the single shoot or continuous shooting or the timer modes. Down here's play, down here's trash. This, again, at the bottom here, hit that down, you get the different picture styles. If faithful is what you use when you're shooting in church. User-defined ones, monochrome if you want to shoot. I wouldn't shoot in monochrome, man. I'd shoot in color and then just change it to black and white later. Why get rid of the color data right away? Why not save it? You might want it. Autofocus has to do with the way it autofocuses. One-shot AI focus and AI servo. One shot is suited for all subjects. When you press the shutter button halfway, the camera will focus only once. AI focus. AF switches the AF mode from one shot to AI servo. AF automatically if a still subject starts moving. AI servo is suited for moving subjects when the focusing distance keeps changing. While you hold down the shutter button halfway, the subject will be focused continuously. If you like this content, click on the logo in the corner to go to my channel and subscribe. This has been another exciting episode of DSLR Nerd. Tune in at DSLRnerd.com. I'm your host, Damian Dodd, and we welcome comments and subscriptions to our blog. Have a good one. Nailed it. First take.